Lesson 2-7, Solving Proportions. All right, you've probably heard the word proportions before. Let's define what a proportion is. A proportion is an equation, so there's an equal sign, that states that two ratios are equal. So for example, A over B equals C over D. These are two ratios set equal to each other. So if you know, we can make several proportions of the same ratio if we just make different variations of this ratio. Kind of confusing, but just remember that a proportion is an equation that states that two ratios are equal. All right, if two ratios are equal and a quantity in one of them is unknown, say we have 1/2 equals x over 8, so we don't know one of the values, you can write and solve a proportion to find this unknown value. And we're going to talk about how to do that first. There's two ways you can solve for an unknown. I'm going to rewrite this a little bigger. 7/8 equals m over 12. So these must equal each other. I just need to find my m value. Well, if you think about this as a normal one-step equation, m divided by 12, if I want the variable to be by itself, I can undo this operation and times by 12 to both sides. Doing this cancels out those 12s. M is left alone. And I have 12 times 7 divided by 8. 12 times 7 is 84 over 8. And my answer is 10.5. So that's one way to solve. It's called using the multiplication property. If I do one more example, x over 7 equals 4/5. I want x by itself, so I'm going to multiply by 7 to both sides. When I do that, these 7's cancel. 4 times 7 is 28 divided by 5. And my answer is 5.6 equals x. All right, another way to solve is by using cross products. This might be what you're most familiar with. Cross products of A over B and C over D are what's across from each other. So A and D are cross products, C and B are cross products. So we can use this to solve for an unknown as well. I'm going to jump right to the first problem. 4 over 3 equals 8 over x. So what I can do is I can multiply the cross products. 4 times x is 4x. And if I multiply this way, 8 times 3, so that's 24 equals 4x. And now it's a one-step equation. Divide by 4, x equals 6. So you multiply the cross products. Let's do another example. Y over 3 equals 3/5. Y times 5 is 5y. Keep your equal sign. 3 times 3, well, that's 9 equals 5 over y. Divide by 5, y equals 1.8. Here's a multi-step proportion. Notice we have more than one value in the numerator, and this could also be if it wasn't a denominator. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to use our cross products, which I call my hockey sticks. So I'm going to do 4 times b minus 8. 4 times b minus 8. And this way, I have 5 times b plus 3. So nothing changed. I'm still multiplying my cross products. But now I have to do a little more work. I have to distribute both sides. 5 times b is 5b. 5 times 3 is 15. 4 times b is 4b. And 4 times a negative 8 is a negative 32. Now I'm going to subtract 4b from both sides. So now I have an equation with variables on both sides. I have just b. And now I'm going to subtract 15 because I want my constants all together. So a negative 32 minus 15 is a negative 47 equals b. I'll do one more example. Cross products, 6n. Cross products, 5 times 2n plus 4. distribute on one side 10n plus 20 equals 6n. I'm going to subtract 6n from both sides, so I have 4n plus 20 equals 0. Then I'm going to subtract 20. 4n equals negative 20. Divide by 4. N equals a negative 5. So using the cross products, you just have one more step. You might have to distribute. All right, using proportions to solve a real-world problem. When you do this, when you model a real-world situation with proportion, make sure you write the proportion carefully. So if you're talking about miles and hours, set up one proportion and the second one has to match those labels. Notice miles is on top again and hours is on bottom. If you did it the wrong way, miles and hours, hours and miles, this would not give you the right answer. So in our example, a portable media player has 2 gigabytes of storage and can hold about 500 songs. A similar but larger media player has 80 gigabytes of storage. About how many songs can the larger media player hold? So we're missing a piece of information. Notice we're talking about two things, gigabytes and songs. I'm going to decide right now that I want gigabytes to be on top and songs to be on bottom. So in my first media player, the portable one, 2 gigabytes, because it's on top, can hold about 500 songs. We're going to set this equal and make another proportion. The larger media player has 80 gigabytes, so that's going on top because I've identified that already. How many songs can it hold? That's the value I don't know. So now I'm just going to cross multiply. 500 times 80 is 40,000. And 2 times x is 2x. Divide by 2. X equals 20,000 songs. Don't forget a label if you're doing a real world problem. So just make sure you're setting up your proportions correctly. This brings us to our lesson check. Please complete 1 through 5 and bring your answers to class.